Okay, cool. So before we get started, as usual, let's start off with some positivity. So in the past week, what is one win that you have had? Did you hit a PR? Did you do something nutrition-wise, personal life, professional life? There is no win that is too small. All wins are accepted. What is one win that you have had? Maybe you just started this journey. Maybe you just got your meal prep, something. What is mine? I always blank as soon as I start this. My squat depth is so much better. Love, love that. Maria's squat depth was rough. And randomly throughout the day, had her do like deep squats just all the time. So now it's been really fun to watch that progress. What is another win? What is mine? Oh, actually, last week I took extra days off from the gym, more so listening to my body because I went on vacation and then I came back and realized I was not feeling well. So that was a win for me because I kind of really wanted to go, being that I hadn't worked out for like 10 days. And when I came back, I still didn't feel great, but it was still, that's something that's new for me. I'm more of like a I need to go to the gym kind of person. So it felt good to take a step back. Invested in a TRX. Love that. I'm excited for that. Meal prepped all foods for 3 days to make sure I hit my deep deficit. Yeah, girl, you gotta grind. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry right now. Started the program, already feeling the benefits. Love that. Cool. All right, so we're gonna get started with today. RDL 70s for the first time and meal prep. My food for 3 days. Needed. Ooh, lots of wins. 70 pounds is crazy. And now my competitive energy is coming in. So that means I got to pick up the 70s soon because I'm somewhere in the 60s. All right. So we're going to get started with today. Today is going to be talking about bloating. So a couple of things, if you struggle with this, if it's something that happens all the time, if it's something that happens every so often, or something that we just want to avoid in the future. So I'm going to share my screen with you as we go through this. You can feel free to put in the chat anything that kind of resonates with you, any questions, or honestly, if you ever want to unmute yourself, that's fine too. So let me share my screen. Okay, cool. And then we'll open up for some questions at the end as well. So we're going to talk habits that can cause bloating. So a couple of things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about common causes, how to avoid bloating, and gut health, hormones, and all that kind of going to having more of a flat stomach, because obviously bloating would be the opposite. Now, usually how the flow of the calls go is I talk about common mistakes and how to avoid, and then all the other stuff. This call is just like 1, 2, 3, 4, talking about all different reasons that can cause bloating. So all of this is kind of like on every single slide. I talk about the cause, how to avoid, and then the gut health, hormones, and everything else is kind of just included on there. So just to kind of get into it, I think there's 11 of them. Some of them are quicker than others. Number one of the most common reasons for bloating and why it tends to happen so much in women is under eating and underfueling your body. And let me kind of paint this picture for you a little bit, because oftentimes we don't think about that. Like, I'm not even eating. Why am I getting bloated, right? There's nothing in my system. So the digestive process helps to reduce bloating. So we're going to paint that picture a little bit. Can't see this here. Okay, so let's talk about how and when the digestive process starts. Now, that starts with anticipation of eating. So as soon as you smell your food, as soon as you see your food, as soon as you hear it, you're cooking, whatever you are doing in terms of food, as soon as that starts, that is when the digestive process starts. So even technically, if it's around you, let's say if everybody's eating, but you're not eating, the digestive process is there because we start to salivate. Okay. Now that saliva is going to produce enzymes for food breakdown. And then we go through the chewing, the swallowing, the stomach acid, and it's this process, right, that eventually creates the bowel movement. Without these movements, without the enzyme production, bowel movements will not happen. And then over time, our body makes less digestive enzymes. So why is it so difficult for me to break down my food? Why do I feel like I'm producing gas and nothing's really happening here? if we are under eating, if we are skipping meals, and honestly, a lot of the other ones are kind of going to relate to this, but really what we're interrupting here is having proper digestive process throughout the day. This can also go on the opposite end, which I actually didn't include, but I just thought of it, is the opposite end of eating all the time. So if you're always snacking, if we have a meal and then we have a snack and then we have this and then we have that and we have that, we're really never giving our digestive process a break, which can also cause bloating. So we want a happy medium between that. And all of this is going to cause stress to the gut. And you'll notice that honestly, every single one of these is related back to stress. Now, with the under eating, we also want to think of long-term dieting and long-term not eating enough. This decreases our metabolism, downregulates our thyroid, and then we have those bloating issues. One of the biggest mind-blowing moments for me, at one point of working with a coach, was more so talking about why I experience bloating or why I hold so much in my midsection. And we had talked about my dieting history. Obviously, you guys kind of know I spent 10 years trying every single diet in the book. And she had mentioned once you stop dieting, you're going to see a big change and a big drastic composition in your midsection. I was like, yeah, whatever. But obviously, I eventually tapped into that. And the difference was very drastic. It was something that I never really thought dieting less would actually help me have a more defined midsection until I actually experienced it, right? This is something that obviously you're going to experience as we go, but making sure that we're not under eating is going to be the number one here. Luckily, you guys are not on this anymore. So we want to think of doing the phases and then getting to the point where we are eating. So if you're on a calorie deficit or if we're changing calories in any sense, we do the phase and let's get to the point of some stability for your body. Number 2 is going to be skipping meals. I would say that most of you at some point, when we do some type of an assessment, I look at your meals and we're just missing, where's the breakfast, right? Where is the dinner? We tend to skip meals. So we want to develop some type of a schedule. Developing a schedule causes an expectation of digestive process, similar to everything that your body kind of does. If you realize you kind of work on a clock, you wake up at the same time, you go to sleep, you get tired at the same time, usually get hungry at the same time, unless you're skipping meals, then we don't have that connection with our hunger hormones, right? So when it doesn't occur and when we start skipping meals and your body starts to wait, you usually eat at this time, but all of a sudden, you're not eating at this time, it produces gas in the digestive tract, which is, okay, now I got bloated. This actually tends to happen to me, especially for dinner. If I go way too long and if I do XYZ, I have to make sure to have something because I actually get bloated from spending too much time not eating. Probably from history. So eating on a schedule is going to help in terms of that digestive process and the bloating. Number 3 is going to be stress, related to basically every single one of them. Stress downregulates our digestive process. Stress also creates a lot of gut issues, especially for women. For example, IBS. This is a neurological disconnection between your brain and your gut, right? They are connected. If there is a disconnection there, we start to have gut issues sometimes. And your doctor has ever told you hey, IBS, things to explore in terms of is it really IBS? But a lot of it really comes down to stress. So if you feel, and honestly, and I've had a lot of conversations with basically all of you in terms of stress management. Sometimes I'm hey, you cannot eat so much in a stress state. You're putting stress on your body. And I know it doesn't a lot of you are so good at being high functioning that you don't realize that in the future, all of this stress really does get to you. So we need to make sure that we are managing that and we are slowing down before all of our meals. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Number 4, this is more so random. Something that I actually used to do in the past, and I don't know why I kind of stopped, but chewing too much gum. Chewing too much gum too often. This is air in the digestive tract. This is your body saying that, wait, should I start that digestive process, but food is not coming in and I start to produce gas. Sometimes people chew gum just because it helps me focus. Sometimes people chew gum because I kind of want to hold myself off for my next meal and I don't want to eat. We're not at that point anymore. But these are fake sugars that, again, not very nutritious and are telling our bodies to produce this gas and start that digestive process. So if you are chewing any type of gum. It's not a bad thing, obviously, every so often is totally fine. But if you're doing it too often, I would definitely recommend going for more like natural gums. Again, this is for somebody that's chewing gum like all the time. Like this is your thing and you need to like really wean off of. Honestly, low-key, this was me at one point. I don't know why I used to chew so much gum. But there are brands that are going to be a little bit better in that sense of the ingredients that are actually in them. But overall, it's still going to come down to digestive enzymes are still being produced, not the best for our gut health. So things to pay attention to. Number 5 is going to be processed foods. The dyes, the seed oils, the vegetable oils, the 1,000 ingredients. I talk a lot about this in my content, because honestly, even when I first started creating content, I was like a 0-calorie girl, like go for the 0-calorie, like maple syrup or whatever it is, like all of these options, which yes, technically in moderation, they can be okay for us. But if we are having a ton of ingredients in so many of our meals, not the best for our gut health, right? We want whole foods in our diet. And things to pay attention here, and where we don't want to fall into kind of like the macros are my life and calorie tracking is my life. When things have a label, they're much easier to track. And it's much easier to go for like a frozen meal or like a piece, whatever bread. But if we can go for something that is more like locally sourced, that doesn't necessarily have that label, I promise you, we will figure out a way to track it. So for example, myself, I get my bread from like a local bakery. I know it's high quality bread. I love the way that they make their products. I don't like the breads that are going to be in the grocery store that are going to last me a million years and never go bad because of all of the stuff that they add to them. So in that case, I technically can't scan the products that I'm getting from my local bakery, but they're gonna be better for me. So I can figure out a way to track them so that I can start improving the whole foods in my diet. So if this is something that you're struggling with and you wanna start making that adjustment, it's so simple as when you're looking, how many calories does this product have? If you're looking like at a pesto and this pesto has 20 ingredients, but then you go to like somewhere else and it has, let's say 4, obviously we're gonna go for the one for 4, right? We're gonna go for the maple syrup that is just maple syrup rather than the one with a ton of ingredients. So this is something that we can start paying attention to. Number 6 is having too many vegetables and high volume food. There can be too much of a good thing. High volume foods basically means I'm trying to keep myself full. So I want to eat a lot of food for not a lot of calories, like popcorn, like broccoli, like I'm blanking right now, but there's just a ton of them. So there can be too much of a good thing. And again, this is something that I had run into. We don't need 3 cups of broccoli in one sitting. So if at some point we are decreasing your calories and we are trying so much to incorporate like vegetables, my life is vegetables, or vice versa, this is usually where it happens. I'm increasing your calories from something that you're used to eating low calorie. And because I increase calories, we want more food. We tend to add too much volume. So instead of like one sandwich before, when your calories were lower, you were getting the 60-calorie bread, you're like, oh, I'm not doing one sandwich anymore. I'm doing 2. That's not the adjustment that we want to make. We want a higher calorie bread. If we increase calories by 100, we don't want to add a ton more vegetables. We want to add some carbs. So that's where the addition and those things kind of get tricky. The increase of calories is usually the problem here because we tend to add too much of a good thing. You can eat too healthy, is basically what we're getting to here. And as we increase calories, especially if this is something that we haven't done yet, we'll kind of walk you through, but just to be aware of, everybody on this call that has increased calories has probably run into this already. Increasing calories is not an easy thing, but obviously we work on it. We don't want too much fiber, and that is a lot of digestive stress. So we need to turn from low calorie gals to higher calorie gals. All of those products that you felt, I shouldn't have that, that's too many calories, the pesto, the avocado, the peanut butter, the seeds, that's all gonna be in our diet all the time. Like we need it because we need to add all of these calories in somehow, but there's only so much that we can eat in a day. Number 7 is not chewing your food enough. And honestly, this comes from stress also. If you are in a rush, you are late for work, or you are eating in between like a very, very short window that you have for lunch, not chewing your food enough. We want to chew into a paste. If you look up like how many times you should chew your food, there's probably a million options, but obviously the way that you chew like a sandwich versus like a banana is going to be super, super different, but we want to make sure that we are chewing into a paste. This is going to come down to slowing down before your meal, because this is something that really you don't pay attention to. You kind of just do it. It's not like second nature, you're just eating. So making sure that we are slowing down before your meals. And how we can start to do this. Number one, before meals, there should be some type of like buffer period. This is for mostly anybody that kind of lives like go, go, go. Or let's say for me, like I work from home, so I can go from right here and then I go to the kitchen and I was just on a meeting and now it's time for lunch. We go from a high stress period, we go from like doing life to trying to digest food when our body is not ready for that. So there has to be some type of a buffer period between life and food. 10 minutes, even 5 minutes is just fine. So something I do for myself is before I step away from my computer and go to eat, I have to sit down on the couch or I have to just chill and do nothing for about 5 minutes. This comes down to that stress management. Our body starts to relax, our nervous system starts to relax, and it's going to tell us like, hey, I'm ready for food. The opposite kind of, or where the hunger signals come in is, if you've ever noticed, during lunch, I'm just not hungry. I do a lot. I forget to eat and I just skip lunch and I realize it's 3 p.m. and I just completely forgot to eat. It is up to you to start setting that timer, but most importantly, it's up to you to get your body to start connecting with hunger signals, right? Because if your body is telling you that it's not ready to eat after you really haven't eaten all day, that means it's in a stress period. The last thing, if a lion is chasing you and you are super stressed, your body's not gonna be like, hey, you're kind of hungry right now. This is gonna be that same exact thing. So buffer period before life and food, slow down when you're preparing your meals. If you are an anxious gal, AKA myself, I do everything really, really fast for no reason at all. I'm always in a rush. So when I prepare my meal, my heart rate can be at 1,000,000 and I'm just like, why am I rushing? I'm literally not in a rush. So making sure that we are slowing down when preparing our meals. 3 to 5 breaths before eating is one of my favorite habits now. And being more present. All of this, if you follow all of these steps, 5 minutes before your meal, slow down when you're creating your meal, 3 to 5 breaths before your meal, by the time you're eating, you're gonna be a lot more present. Don't obviously be working while you're eating, watching TV while you're eating, etc. Number 8 is over consuming protein. This is something that we'll do together. I will mention this because again, too much of a good thing. Some of us respond differently to the amount of protein that we can go with, that we can consume. So I put this in here just in case, but I don't really think it's an issue. Sometimes when we go past what is our upper threshold of protein, then it's difficult for us to digest it. And sometimes if you are somebody that under consumed protein and we're getting you to the point where you're eating enough protein, you're going to realize that your digestion does a whole lot of different things. So that's something that you can just communicate with me. Water intake, that's just going to help with our bowel movements. It's going to help flush us out. This we kind of just cover within the first week. So I think you're all pretty good here, but obviously don't forget that, right? Oh, and also something that can be considered, it doesn't have to be just water. If it's your teas, if it's your coffee, 80 to 120 is just a range, and don't overcomplicate it too much. These can all go into that. You don't have to drink 100 ounces of water on top of your teas, on top of your, and then you just can't eat, right? 10 is sitting down too much. I think I spoke about this with the call that we did on work. I forgot exactly what it was. It was movement in the workplace. So that call, I spoke about sitting too often can also cause digestive issues. Now, if you are somebody that has to sit for work, if one, you have access at home to change your setup, I don't think there was a better thing that I could have done for my digestion than to get a standing desk. It is one of the best things that I've ever invested in my office because my digestion completely changed. By the end of the day, I used to feel bloated, but it's really because in that seated position, we produce a lot of gas, our digestion slows down. If you don't have access to making that shift in your workplace, I would 100% recommend adding in some type of movement. So can we set alarms where you have to get up? When you go to the bathroom, take the long way. Can you get up and stretch? Can you wake up in the morning 10 minutes earlier to go for a walk after lunch? And at some point, if we can add 5 to 10 minute walks, it's gonna make a drastic difference. This doesn't become a problem when we don't notice it until it becomes a problem. So obviously, let's not let it become a problem. All of this we are doing to have healthy gut health, okay? All of this is gonna come down to, why do I feel bloated? Your gut is trying to tell you something. Your gut is gonna be your happy place. Your gut and your brain are connected. If you are stressed, you cannot digest, okay? And then lastly, I throw this in here, is your period. We have a call on this. All things menstrual cycle, when you're gonna be feeling a certain way. The Stardust app is my favorite thing ever because it literally tells me exactly how my body's gonna feel and why I'm feeling this way. But before, I really didn't understand the four phases of my period. So if this is something that you really haven't explored, you haven't really learned, like, how does your body feel in a luteal phase? How does your body feel in a follicular phase or during your period? Start learning about that, because sometimes we can really freak out. Like this morning, I woke up, my stomach is hurting, and I was like, oh yeah, I had been feeling that my period's gonna come. I am getting cramps. So getting connected in that area, this is gonna be completely different. If your period is causing an intense amount of cramps and we are getting extremely bloated, that's more so a hormonal issue. And that's something that we need to address. So that I'll kind of just throw in here. Now, here is your forever homework. Usually I give you homework for the week, but I'm giving you homework for the rest of your life. So first, do not eat in a stressed state. Say it with me. I will not eat in a stressed state. Not good for you. I do it all the time. I'm getting so much better. Do not eat in a stressed state. Eat on schedule. Get your body to tell you, whoa, it's 12:30. It's time to eat, right? Start eating on a schedule. If your job makes this difficult, how can we figure out a system in that sense, right? If you forget, set an alarm. No skipping meals. It's gonna go into that one. Fat loss is a phase, it's not a way of life. We do this, we do it for a certain amount of time, but there is no period that we are leaving you in a low calorie phase. That is not where we live. We are high calorie gals. We are strong. We lift weights in the gym, and our gut health, most importantly, needs it. And whole quality foods. Start exploring. This marinara sauce that I bought has a bunch of shit in it. Can I go to a different store, or can I figure out how to make this on my own? That's something that I've been exploring actually in my house. I got a food processor. I've been doing like hummus, and I want to do pesto now. If anybody has a pesto recipe, please send it my way because I freaking love it, but I don't know how to make it. And it's all because we want minimal ingredients in our diet. So this is your forever homework. Put it on your fridge, put it wherever you want, but this is just the simple things. Remember that food is love and strength is power. And that is the end of our lesson today. Do we have any questions? I put my fan on and it's not pointing to me at all. I can't reach it. Any questions or anything that anybody would like to share?
That was probably a good lesson to have while I ate my dinner and really focused on chewing my food into a paste.
It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
But I think it's easier to envision, okay, chew to a pace versus like chew 20 times, because then you get tired of counting to 20.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I realize that I will forget, but it's like my rushed natural like being that and then I realized like, whoa, like I was not chewing my food at all. So chewing into the paste, I think what helped me was like the 3 to 5 breaths before, because it kind of like, okay, 3 to 5 breaths, I need to chill, and then chewing into the paste. But it is a lot of work. You're gonna realize that you've never chewed that much in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else, anything to share? Any questions? Oh, we got a pup. Cute. Anything unrelated to today's lesson? Maybe something that came up during the week, in the gym, in your nutrition. Yeah. I had something to say and I forgot. We're pretty good. Oh, I wanted to talk about my fuck it sets. So Carla posted today that she did a fuck it set and it went very well for her. And I would say, for especially anybody that's new here, we have this thing called fuck it sets. Like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go up. Usually that goes really, really well. And we're like, yeah, like I didn't even know that I could do this much weight. I have failed 3 fuck it reps, 3 fuck it sets this week. It has been the first time that I have failed so many, and I am so frustrated, but it kind of still lit that fire that I want to get to these. So if you ever fall between both of those, like, holy shit, I went up and I was just like, fuck it, I went up, I did the 40 pounds and I did it. Or if you went up and then you realize you fell a couple reps short, both of those are wins because they're still teaching us something. So Carla and I kind of on 2 opposite spectrums today of the fucking sets, but still was excited about it. All right, cool. So that is it. If you have any questions on any of this more individualized to you and anything that you've been feeling throughout your journey, shoot me a message and I will help you with it, especially when it comes to your schedule and your stress, so we can talk more individualized to you. That is it. Have a wonderful week. I will see you during check-ins.